This here is Fujifilm GFX100RF, a 102 megapixel medium format rangefinder style camera. And no, unfortunately, it's not mine. But Fujifilm was kind enough to let me borrow one of them. I'm not getting paid to talk about this or anything. All here is my honest opinion of this fixed lens mega camera. I will talk more about the camera later on this video, but let's start with me taking this bad boy for a ride in Helsinki city right before the sunset. The thing is, we have already reached the point where the sun doesn't really set here in the north, so I can't do any of my super moody late night photo walks until again next fall. It did get somewhat dim at least, and the sunset was quite beautiful that day, so bear with me. Okay, so the first two photos I took with this camera. I do like them, and what struck me the most is how huge the actual sizes of these photos are. I don't think I have ever shot anything quite like this. So, did I just crop my photo to 17 by 6? Well, I guess I did. You see, GFX100RF has this extra dial on the back of it, and with that you can choose different kind of aspect ratios straight from the camera. And honestly, it's one of the best features for any camera I have seen in a while. I usually do cropping in post, but with this dedicated physical dial, it's a whole different ballgame. And you can still play with cropping or aspect ratios afterwards. The full photo is still there if you shoot in RAW format. If you only shoot JPEG, then the crop is there to stay. I just like the flexibility in general, so even though I do like these film simulations and I use them all the time with my X100 Mark VI, I still always keep the RAW file as well. When the night sky started to give its best, I decided to play around with slow shutter speeds, still shooting handheld though. With the sunset like this, you can't really go wrong.
With your hands.
At that point, I realized that my SD cards were way too small for this camera. And I guess that's one of the downsides of these huge photos you get from this camera. I still wanted to take some night photos before calling it, so I deleted some unnecessary frames and managed to take these bangers. This particular photo turned out great, and even though it was already quite dark, the camera did deliver what I needed. But I guess if you have a look at the specs of GFX100RF, you have noticed some things you might want to consider if you mainly take night photos. The aperture only goes up to f4, so in order to manage in ill-lit situations, you need to rely on shutter speed and ISO. Also, there's no IBIS, so that's something to consider as well. But that said, you can crank up the ISO into quite ridiculous numbers, and at least I didn't have any issues shooting during the nighttime. Next morning the sun was shining, and I decided to take this camera for another spin. I think these daytime photos turned out much better than the ones from the previous night. Maybe I had also become more familiar with the camera, but I was definitely feeling good what I was seeing. Here's a good example of the benefits of the 102 megapixel photos. I think this photo is really interesting, but it's actually just a crop from this full-size image. And the end result is still a high-resolution photo. Because of the super high resolution, you can actually use a digital zoom using this extra dial on front. But again, the whole picture is still there as long as you keep shooting in RAW. Nice little feature. So, what do I actually think of this camera? Honestly, I really like it. It's not perfect by any means. The lack of IBIS made me not even bother shooting video with it, and the aperture could go higher. But in the end, it's all about how the camera feels overall, and I have to say GFX100RF is something that you just want to pick up and take photos with, and that's really what matters. It kinda feels like a big brother for Fuji X100 Mark VI. Also, this camera made me finally buy some new SD cards, so thank you for that. It was about time for me to do that. Here, I use the built-in ND filter. That's something I have become quite used to from shooting with X100 VI, and it works here as well. Unlike in my usual videos, this time I guess I left my favorite photos for the last. I really like this one in particular. And actually, this next one is definitely a keeper for me. It has nice layering to it, the flowers in the foreground and the subject in front of the wall. And the whole photo has nice direction to it. I like the colors, I like the lighting, I like the composition. Good job, me. Now the real question is, how do I get me one of these things? Fuji, let's talk. This last photo is from the same place I took the last nighttime photo. Quite a drastic difference here. But that's it. Thank you Fujifilm for lending me this camera, much appreciated. I hope to somehow get my hands on this in the future as well. I feel like I could come up with great stuff with it. Thank you for watching. See you next time.